All right, welcome back in. Just another football show. YouTube videos just to keep rolling, as it were. If you didn't catch it, Chiefs Titans already available. Go out there, check it out. It's out there. If you haven't listened, we had some good analysis from two really, really, really good fans. And yeah, we need your ears. Listen to it, share it, everything, all of the above. Just give it a share. So here we're going to be talking to Niners fan, and we're going to be talking to Packers fan. Joey's coming back. It's a big deal. We know Joey. Joey likes to hang out. He's a good guy. We're gonna chat with him. We had to sub in on the old Niners front there. Coach Noah not available this week. So we had to call the old audible. These things tend to happen, guys. We do what we can to make it work. So we had to call Richard from the Fan Show. We had him on. We've had him on before. He's from the Fan Show. Does some work with the Sioux Falls Storm. We're doing all kinds of things. So without any further ado, I believe the plan is we're going to throw on over to Richard. He's going to talk a little Niners. And then Joey's going to close it up, talk a little Packers. And we'll be back Friday to give you our predictions. So without any further ado, let's get Richard on the line, shall we?
Alrighty, Casey loves it when I'm here because every once in a while he tosses things over my way. And
I just got to sit over here.
Yeah, we're getting ready to talk to 49ers fan Richard, host of the Fan Show, director of communications for the Sioux Falls Storm. Richard, how you doing? And between you and me, really didn't expect to be talking 49ers in the postseason about 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's been a big surprise, a pleasant surprise. I'm anxious, which is usually, I think, the average feeling of a fan in the postseason.
Yes, anxious. The word didn't come up earlier in the day, but you're right. You're absolutely right. It's anxious at this point.
Yeah, and look, I am pleasantly surprised, but I didn't think it was the impossible dream to get to the postseason. I didn't think that they were going to do the Adam Rank thing and go 3-13, but you get a full season of Jimmy G, or at least you hope to God you do. You've got Bosa now. You've got a defense that you've been working on over the last several seasons, building piece by piece because Lynch knows defense. And now you have Kittle. You need to get a true number one wide receiver. You've got some great running backs. I mean, like really below 500 just seemed like, okay, somebody's got to get hurt, like season-ending IR. And that's a key member of this team, either side of the ball, in order for that to happen.
Yeah, with this team, that's not out of the realm of possibilities either.
Fairly regular.
That's a normal Tuesday as far as it's concerned. So, you addressed the need for a number one receiver. They go out, they pick up Emmanuel Sanders, and I think he really fits the need there. You've got Deebo Samuel, who is just impressing me game in and game out with the speed at which he's adapted to the NFL game.
Yeah, and I tell people, first and foremost, I have this serious love-hate relationship going on with Deebo because when he's on, he's great. I love what he can do out of the backfield, his catch and run. But against Seattle, granted, there was a lot of injuries. Sanders exited early, no Kittle, so it's kind of on his shoulders, and that's a lot for a rookie to take on. But there were some dropped passes by him that would have been big plays, if not touchdowns on a few, where they don't even need to go to overtime. So there's been a few times where he's maybe gotten ahead of himself, like he was running before the actual catch happened. And I know that those are like rookie mistakes, but you're in the postseason now and you can't have those mistakes anymore.
Okay, so like you said, we're in the postseason now. We're going to jump there. Just dominant defensive performance over Minnesota. There's really no other way to describe it. I had a little bit of a fun extent at a football fan in general. I don't know which team you represented, but was kind of laughing at George Kittle's stat line from this game. Oh, greatest tight end. I'm like, did you watch him block in this game? They didn't really throw the football a whole lot because they didn't have to. They literally had a touchdown drive that was a running play. Every single play out there.
Like 10 in a row.
Like 10 in a row, just rattle them off one after another. Was able to fluster Kirk Cousins early, and I really thought that'd be a key to victory for them. Were you kind of surprised with the way they got it done over Minnesota?
Not really, because I thought, in all honesty, that the way that Minnesota won over New Orleans was kind of a fluke. Like, I knew that when you talk matchups like that, where you have this high-powered offense and their defense is pretty good, and then you have Minnesota, who their defense is really good, and their offense is, well, it depends on the day, that you have to have everything go right for one team and everything go wrong for the other. And that's kind of how I feel like that game happened. Now, I didn't watch it minute to minute, but I mean, an upset like that, I was like, I don't think they can make lightning strike twice on the road against an even better defense than what New Orleans had. And they took away everything from Cousins. They put him on the ground every chance they got, and then they just grinded it out. Like, this was the most fundamental football that I've seen played, as far as a team controlling it from start to finish and doing everything they needed to do at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, if I wasn't a 49ers fan, I'd probably just say that this was a boring game. But it was fun for me to watch. I definitely enjoyed it. And it's been a while since we've seen this performance from this team as far as executing the ball, running the football, and just dominating on defense. We saw this at the start of the year. It kind of went away with some defensive injuries, and all of a sudden they were winning shootouts, and then it was nice to see them kind of get back to their bread and butter.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the 2011, 2012, 2013 squad, probably more so the 2011, because that was when Alex Smith was still at QB and he got dubbed game manager. But he didn't have to do anything he wasn't being asked to do. I mean, when they went into the postseason, they were boasting one of the best defenses in the league, and they had Frank Gore at running back and Vernon Davis at tight end. And then they get into that matchup against the Saints, and guess what? Alex Smith was asked to do a little more, and he did a little more. Threw it to Vernon Davis in the end zone, touchdown, game over, in a game that nobody thought, if it comes down to a shootout, you're going to win a shootout against Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham, but they did it. And so I think that's very similar to what you're seeing right now. Big time defense controlling the game. Offense isn't being asked to do more than they need to until they need to do it, which is why Jimmy Garoppolo has been getting a whole lot of heat for not being ready for the big stage or being overhyped, and it's just not true.
That kind of answers, the question that I was going to ask. We saw Jimmy G throw the interception, and then that next drive is when they had the 10-run drive, no passes to Jimmy G. It certainly seemed like, if you wanted to read it that way, you could read that they didn't trust Jimmy G, but really, I mean, they were able to run it 10 times in a row and get a touchdown out of it. So how do you feel about Jimmy G? How do you feel about or how confident are you in Jimmy G going forward?
So what I thought at the beginning of the season, because of the way that they finished that 5-game run, and then Jimmy G got hurt against Kansas City and then he was out, I said, I feel like this is a defense where if you need them to hold late in the game, they can. But is this an offense that if you need a touchdown, not a field goal, but a touchdown in under 2 minutes, can they do it? It really just depends, because Jimmy can orchestrate a great offensive drive. We saw it done against Arizona. We saw it done against New Orleans. We've seen it done several times this year, but it's almost as if he has to throw an interception in order to have a good game. Like the movie Any Given Sunday, when Willie Beeman pukes before he goes out and starts a drive, and the coach is like, do you need to puke? Because it's okay if you do. If you do it and you have a great performance again, people are going to start to respect it. Like, I hate that he has to throw an interception. I really, really do. But his stats after the fact aren't that of a quarterback that's gun shy after throwing an interception. I just wish he didn't have to throw an interception.
Yeah, it's almost as if he just has to get it out of the way.
Just like Jameis.
Just like Jameis. Well, Jameis gets it out of the way and then back in the way.
Then he goes it a couple times.
Roughly about 30 times.
And then there's situations here where he gets painted in a bad picture because of the stat line in the games where he throws 5 or 4 interceptions. But you look at him, a lot of them are occasionally, maybe this is just me being defensive of my quarterback, but kind of fluky, off the hands, tipped balls, stuff like that. He does throw a lot of those as well. But like you said, I've followed this team throughout the entire season. And I'm like, okay, they're pretty good, but I need to see them win like this, and then they win like that. Or it's like, okay, they're pretty good, but I need to see them just blow an opponent out. Okay, they did that. Okay, I need to see them win a shootout. Okay, they did that. And I'm still got this trepidation about me before I really wanted to buy into the fact that, you know what, this is actually a pretty damn good football team. Took me a lot longer than most than probably to hop onto that board. One of those turn points for me was the previous game against Green Bay. Now, I wanted the matchup against Minnesota. Got that. I wanted the Packers to win because I did not want to have to play Seattle a third time with the way that the other two went down to the wire. It could have gone either way, both those games. But there's absolutely no way that Green Bay isn't going to be better prepared, have a different game plan, and come out swinging at this one with a lot to prove after his 29-point loss we saw in November.
Yeah, it's funny because I have several Green Bay friends, and there was several seasons ago where Rodgers was getting thrown around and put into the turf every play. I mean, it was ugly. And my friend just kind of chuckles and says to me, well, it's a good thing that they're having this game this early so that then Rodgers can go back in the locker room after the game, scream at his offensive line, and then they'll come out and put up 40 points next week. And it just seems like that game, everybody likes to talk about, well, we already, crushed Green Bay once. Okay, but no two games are the same ever. And if you think that Aaron Rodgers, of all people, isn't going to do everything in his elite quarterback mind to try to make this thing close and then win it, then you're very naive about how football works. Because that game, although I loved the dominant performance on primetime, there was a lot that went wrong for Green Bay that if even one or two of those things doesn't go wrong for them, probably a very different football game.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I don't want to get caught up in the, hey, we just crushed this team before, we'll be able to do it again. And I loved the fact that today Kyle Shanahan came out in his press conference and said, look, what happened before, you throw that out the window when you get to the postseason. This is different, which to me shows that they're focused on the task at hand. They're not taking Green Bay lightly. They are ready to go out there and play in a big way.
Yeah, it's funny because, I'll watch press conferences or hear excerpts from them every now and then. And the press conference that Shanahan did yesterday, there's a reporter in there, and he goes, once you've had your way with the team, how do you communicate to your locker room that they need to stay focused so that they don't look past this team like that last game? And he's like, you tell them that hopefully they're not that stupid. And it's like, that's the brutal honesty that he possesses and that locker room needs to have, because don't be that stupid. There's no way that you're in the NFC Championship game with a team that you're just going to bulldoze. It's just, that's not how that works.
Yeah, I think that they're doing a good job of not buying into, A, the hype a little bit, right? Because they've been hyped up quite a bit this year, and B, the fact that they're going to steamroll this Green Bay team. Like you said, there's a lot of things that went wrong for Green Bay. Obviously, San Francisco played very well. I remember Aaron Rodgers being on his ass that entire game. So obviously San Francisco earned that victory, but a lot of things, like you said, went wrong for the Packers early and often. So I don't think it's going to be a shootout or anything like that. And for the Niners, if the Niners were to come into the game with that mentality, they're just going to blow them out, like you said, that'd be stupid. Like you and Shanahan said, it'd be stupid. So I do think that it's a whole different game. The Packers are playing well right now. The Niners had a good, impressive victory, but I don't think that they're happy winning a playoff game. I think they want more, right? So I think this is just a good one, and I'm kind of throwing the previous game out the window, disregarding that almost entirely, not entirely, but almost entirely, because I don't know how much of an impact that's going to have on this current game.
Yeah, I don't think it'll have any impact at all. I mean, a game like this, even if they were playing Seattle for a third time, it's almost as if you have a completely clean slate. I'm sure that you probably look over the film from the last two games, but I'd be more focused on, okay, what did they do against Green Bay? Like, what did they do a week ago? Not like, what did they do in week 17 and then week, 14 or 13 or whatever it was that they faced Seattle again. It's just like, what have they done recently? And are we going to be prepared for that? And how do we prepare for that? Because it's a lot about what can go wrong and making sure that you're prepared for the things that can go wrong. There was the NFC Championship game in San Francisco against the New York Giants.
Don't go there.
And if there wasn't not one, but two muffed punts, there's no way New York wins that game. I mean, Eli was on his back just about every down. And if that hadn't happened, there's just no way that they win that game. So you can have a great team, but it can be one or two things that screws it all up for you.
In the previous matchup with the Packers, Aaron Rodgers was knocked down a lot, but Garoppolo was a close second as the number of times that this defensive front for Green Bay was able to get to him and get him on the ground. Maybe not quite there with the sack totals, but tons of quarterback pressures, tons of hits. They have sort of stepped that up since then. That defensive front has kind of turned into their own little bit of a juggernaut. Are you concerned at all about the fact that if they're able to get some pressure early, we've seen Garoppolo, and we mentioned it earlier, have these games where he will throw 2-3 interceptions like that, and maybe they do a better job of stifling the run game than Minnesota did. Now all of a sudden we're in a position where we have to rely on that arm with the pressure coming his way. Do you think that they can overcome that?
I think getting a game like Minnesota out of the way, I think being at home are two things working in Jimmy's favor. I think the fact that he's got now a full season and then some under his belt as the guy is a huge thing going for him momentum-wise. I mean, look, you get games like Seattle when they played in San Francisco, and that happens where you're bullied by their defensive line, and you have that strip sack that changes the game there, and they're coming for you, and they're coming for you hard. And then you fix that. You have that experience now under your belt, because I didn't really see that same kind of Jimmy after that point. I mean, then they have the game against Green Bay a little later. They have the shootout with New Orleans. I mean, this is a guy who understands what's at stake. And I do feel like if you're going to ask what the key to victory is for San Francisco, it's their offensive line. I mean, plain and simple, doesn't matter what their defense does to Aaron Rodgers. If their line can protect Jimmy and create holes for that run game again, they'll be okay. But if Jimmy has to scramble, flee the pocket, all that stuff, that's when there's a lot of uncertainty.
All right, so we haven't necessarily made you do it, but you're stepping in. We're gonna make you take over the mantle.
We're gonna hold you to it.
We're gonna hold you to it. We need you to tell us how you think this game this weekend is going to shake out, maybe a little game flow, and how you see it shaking out. Give us a little final score action, if you will.
Oh, final scores are tough, but I think this is a low-scoring game. Kind of like the 27-10, but I think it'll be closer as far as the two teams go. Depending on who scores first, it's going to be about creating turnovers. If they can sack Rodgers and force a fumble or get an interception or force them to quick 3 and outs, then Shanahan can play his game. If not, now we're talking about, is this going to be kind of a lower scoring shootout as far as maybe more field goals than we'd like to see? But I think low scoring, probably, 24-21 or 24-20 would be my pick. And I think San Francisco can get it done. I think Rodgers, there's a lot of magic in that arm, yes. But Seattle was a wounded animal that they happened to get lucky against. And I think San Francisco, even if I wasn't a fan, I would have to respect that they are one of the more well-rounded teams that's left in this playoff picture.
All right, buddy. I, for one, hope that we are talking to you next week because that means the Niners are advancing. 2 weeks. 2 weeks in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we'll take a little week off.
Take a week off.
I mean, we'll talk, but
we'll talk.
We'll give the fans a week off to gather themselves.
But in the meantime, since it might be another 2 weeks before we talk to you, let everyone know where they can catch your voice talking football elsewhere.
So I host a brand new podcast for the Sioux Falls Storm as kind of a side project to the director of communications role. It's called Eye of the Storm, and you can see it or hear it on Spreaker.com, and it's shared to iTunes and SoundCloud. So if you go and you like the Storm or follow them on their social media, you'll get the links. It's every Wednesday at 5 Central Time. Then I also am still hosting the Fan Show, and that one you actually can see on Facebook Live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, or 6 Central. And then that's available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker.com.
All right, buddy. Thanks. Get out there, give them a like, give them a listen, check it out. Come IFL season, sorry we have to be on opposite sides of things now, but go Barnstormers.
All right, I'll see you this season.
All right, have a good one, buddy.
All right, thanks for the time.
Bye. Yep, bye.
All right, and we're back. But this time, it's funny.
Joke's on you. That's why I made you intro this.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because the history between me and this next guest, we almost always seem to be bitter rivals fighting it out to the very end, and we are going to do that again
There's any cookie sheets involved
this Sunday.
time.
Probably not. Maybe some chairs and thumbtacks possibly. But we got Packer fan Joey back on the line. You gave me the matchup I wanted, Joey, but I still don't know how good I feel about it.
I'm still living in that dream that was that Packers victory. Oh God, especially when it felt like it was about to slip away again to Russell Wilson. Just hats off to Russell Wilson. Yeah, that was a fun game to watch.
I loved how it took up until either late third quarter or early fourth quarter before you reached out and texted me. And your first text to me was, I thought I wasn't going to have to deal with cheat code Russell Wilson tonight. And sure enough, here he fucking is.
Man, that was ridiculous. I swear to God, did somebody grease him with Crisco and just roll him out there? Preston Smith described it as trying to chase a chicken in a yard with no fence. I was like, yeah, that's a great analogy. I mean, how many times did they have him sandwiched, just dead to rights, and he slipped right through? I mean, that was an amazing performance. And honestly, if Pete Carroll would have let him do that in the first 2 quarters, I think we're having a different conversation today. Actually, I don't think I'm talking to you today.
Yeah, it did seem very odd that it took that long in the game for them to figure out that they needed to sort of do this. And it was the first half of the football game. It wasn't necessarily I don't want to say like that the second half was designed getting Russell out on a bootleg. It was more of, we're just going to let Russ be Russ, not draw up these plays for him. So it wasn't like they were calling these bootleg sort of plays to get him out of the pocket and run around a little bit. They were just letting him kind of play with the freedom and the creativity. But the Green Bay Packers almost let this one slip through their fingers had it not been for Pete Carroll deciding to punt. At the time, I was fine with the punt after watching their watching their inabilities to stop the Packers on multiple third downs. After that,
you play to win the game.
I think honestly, Pete Carroll did the Packers a disservice there in the sense of what's coming up ahead of us. But he gambled against Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs with 3 minutes left to go in the game, and the old man made him regret it. So, hats off to the defense for getting that sack there on that third down, and I think really pushing them out of fourth down territory, and just talk about those third down plays too. Oh, just some incredible passes.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers had his best of the night on third down, it seemed. One of them, the questionable, was it a first down, was it not a first down? I, for one, think that fans need to remember exactly that the yellow line on the screen is unofficial when you look at this play from multiple angles. I am one of the first ones to go, it's interesting how the Packers always seem to get the benefit of the doubt, but this was clearly a first down in my
Twitter
opinion.
was eating up the home cooking.
It was awful.
And to the whole, the Packers get all the calls. When you're a Packers fan, trust me, it doesn't seem that way. We have long memories, long painful memories. Hey, Jerry Rice fumbled. Let's get that clear now.
I've seen that 3 times already this week.
Yeah. Just want to get that out right now. If you go back and you look at the fumble that clearly should have been overturned and given to Green Bay in the first quarter there, and that's another conversation for the offseason about the officiating in those situations. But it's a back and forth game. The play is what it was, the angle is what it was. But how about that weird sequence where they came out, said the play stood, and then went back to review some official footage that had just come in that no one else saw. What the hell was that?
I don't know. Where did they find footage that no one else saw?
It was additional footage. I bet the Warren Commission wishes they added some additional footage.
Yeah, Pete Carroll probably had like his cell phone out at the time. He's like, no, you need to look at this.
Check this out. Did you look at the pylon cam? Was it pylon? It was pylon cam from like 40 yards away.
Yeah.
This doesn't help anyone.
They would have had a riot in Lambeau if they would have come back out and said that play was overturned. I mean, I feel confident on the fourth down, but yeah.
Overall, though, this was one of the best, or one of the better, I guess, games I've seen out of the Packers this year. Complete game.
This was Aaron Rodgers' back. Not that he went anywhere.
Certainly seemed like
but they were kind of stifled in the run game, and he had to get it done with his arm.
I'm basically just saying,
he proved that he still could.
My last memory of the Packers before this is that Lions game where they almost lost. They probably should have lost Week 17. So, yeah, this really makes me feel more confident in the Packers. Obviously, it's a big get going forward to beat San Francisco, but this makes me feel that they're a much better team. I was going into last week thinking, how is this team 13-3? They've been frauds or imposters or this and that. That's all gone now. This team has earned their 13-3. I love LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers. They never faltered. And Devontae Adams, I wish he would have scored some more touchdowns during the regular season. Then I wouldn't have had to get Kyle a Scooby snack. But whatever. It's all coming now. So I think that this team is legit, and I really look forward to the matchup on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think you are going to see a completely different game this time around. For one, I think the Packers have a little more perspective on the physicality that San Francisco brings on both sides of the ball. I don't expect Brian Bulaga to go down, early in this game. You don't expect Aaron Rodgers to fumble right out of the gate on the 2. That last matchup, it just kind of turned into a waterfall on him, and it just got away from him. And eventually the D gave up, and it didn't give up, but the D let up. I think this time around you're going to have a very focused Packers team and a Packers team that hasn't lost since that game. So I'm really excited about it. And you have a San Francisco team that's healthier than they were the last time around. So, that's pretty scary for us over here in Packer Nation. But yeah, it's going to be a slugfest. Yeah, I'm looking forward.
It should be a great game on paper. I, for one, am looking forward to it. And just like you, I've got that nauseous feeling in my stomach, getting ready for Sunday. Hopefully some beers beforehand will take care of that. Like you said, the Niners are healthier, but, man, it's almost worse that they were able to defeat Green Bay the way they did the first time. Because if there's a team or a player in particular that you do not want to have to come back and see again after beating them like that, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be out for blood to kind of prove that one game in particular was a fluke and not a measurement of what that Packers team actually is. There is no possible way that they're going to come into this one not more prepared with a better game plan and just maybe a better idea of who exactly the 49ers are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you listen to the guys talk about that game now in retrospect, they keep using the same words. We just didn't have a good plan. We didn't have a good plan. So I don't know if going in what the original plan was. I know when Bulaga went down, that really changed the game. Alex Light just did not hold up against Nick Bosa at all. Nick Bosa's just been dominant in his rookie year. But I expect a fully healthy Packer line, which will help open up that playbook a little bit. I do expect them to, hopefully really try to attack the edges of San Francisco. I don't think there's a lot of hope of moving the ball in the middle of the field against that defense. So I expect a lot of outside zone reads, a lot of quick passing routes outside, set up some screens, and then hopefully they can work something off play action. But yeah, it's a tough task.
And that's how we see teams kind of I won't say expose, but get the better of this Niners defense. As you get to that edge, you're able to get some stuff going outside. Rodgers is very good at throwing on the run. We've seen this team be susceptible to when they kind of move the pocket with the quarterback, get him on the outside, able to look downfield. Rodgers is one of the best in the game at being able to do that. So I really think there's a world here where Green Bay can really step up and kind of avenge the ghosts of the past of what this defense was able to do to them in November.
Yeah, and like you said, Aaron Rodgers is the guy that does carry that chip, and that comes with that cockiness and arrogance some people, despise him for. And I guarantee you Aaron Rodgers is still pissed off that the Niners didn't draft him. He's the guy that doesn't seem to let things go. So I think he's got a lot of motivation. I love they opened the game up at a touchdown. I can hear Mike McCarthy, we're nobody's underdog. So that kind of, as far as the mentality coming in, and I think, like you said, sometimes it's a negative that you blew a team out once. It's hard to get back up for it again. But it's just weird how I think, the opposite's going to happen too, where Jimmy Garoppolo kind of succeeds working the middle of the field. And so I think, on the flip side, the Packers defense, they're going to really try to keep him contained in the middle and not let him get outside. And somehow, by some miracle, someone's going to have to keep George Kittle from, 15 catches and 200 yards in this game.
He's due because he had like one catch for 13 against Minnesota.
Yeah, he didn't do much, right?
So he's due for a big game. If there was one down thing that the 49ers did against the Packers previously, one blemish, it was the number of sacks that they allowed. Like, both teams accumulated for a huge number of sacks. Garoppolo was on his ass almost as much as Rodgers was, whether it be sacks or QB pressures or getting hit. And we've seen Garoppolo in moments of, I don't want to say distress, but if you can get an early interception that turns into 2, maybe there's a fumble as well. This kind of goes this way. You said that the Green Bay Packers are susceptible to down, over the middle kind of throws, but if they can get the pressure there, kind of secure the edges on the outside, do you think that they could be a big, kind of throw Jimmy in some fits, if you will?
I think that is their hope to win this game. I think it really rests upon that pass rush. They got pressure on Russell Wilson. I think what was like 53% of the snaps that he dropped back. So Jimmy Garoppolo is not Russell Wilson. So I think if we're getting a pressure rate of nearly 50% on him, things will go our way. We'll see. And I think that's the Packers' hope in this game. I really think this is going to hinge on getting to Garoppolo, getting some sacks, and getting some timely turnovers. The Packers are really tough to beat when they do generate 1 or 2 turnovers a game. And I really think in this game, especially on offense, they cannot waste any possessions. But on defense, they've got to find a couple ways to get Aaron Rodgers back on the field. If the Niners, who have an amazing pass rush, pass blocking unit, Joe Staley's back in, and the way they run the ball, it does make it very difficult for a pass rush to get there. And if the Packers have to start bringing pressure, I worry about what George Kittle can do to him. So I think that is the matchup at 5-on-4. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we saw the Niners team last week, just basically a tune-up game against the Vikings. Owned them left, right, and center. Was able to run on them, throw on them, everything. I don't think they're going to have that kind of easy path this time with a Packers team who has been playing very well, especially on the defense, like you said. Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith were all over the place on Sunday against Russell Wilson. So I do think that it's going to be a much better matchup for the Niners than the Packers. And like we talked about a little bit before, maybe a lot of people are writing this off because the Niners blew out the Packers earlier in the year, and maybe that plays into the 7-point underdogs and everything like that. But 2 wildly different teams. Two wildly different teams. The Packers are in a different place mentally. They're not, they're not going to have an issue with game planning. Hopefully, this is the time to get all your game plans right. You don't want to mess up that right now. So I do think it's going to be a much better game, and I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, I feel so much more confident about it this time. Not so confident that I'm thinking that this is a win, but just more confident that they're going to be competitive. This has been a really special season, just with everything that happened the last 2 years, all the uncertainty, just the way our quarterback got beat up in the media all off season. It's just fun when you're a diehard Packer fan. A 13-3 season with a bye and now a playoff win and a trip to the NFC title game to play a longtime rival. It's just fun, and I hope the Packer fans that are listening to this, they can just kind of put that in perspective and just enjoy the ride that it's been. And if the team goes out and they compete, but they fall short, it's something we can still be proud of. It's we'll remember it. No one else will. But No, it's been such a fun ride. It's been a great season.
Yeah, and you hit me right in the heart of hearts when you said a
He
long
sounds
time.
like me.
When you said a long time rival, man, this drives me all the way back to third grade and starter jackets as far as this rivalry goes. So I know we're there, and we're at that time of the interview in the show. You did this last week. You know what we're about to ask you to do this week. Just kind of give us your overall feeling how this game's going to shake out, the kind of the flow, a little bit this and that, and we're going to need a final score, and we'll hold you to it. How close was he, by the way, KC, to last week's final score?
Oh, what was the final score? He had 23-16, so not terrible.
Not bad.
28-23.
Yeah, he was in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah. Things got a little more exciting in the first half than I thought they would. So
He didn't call a Titans win by 11 points, but hey, we'll give you credit.
No. Can I do one thing though before I give my prediction?
Sure.
Can I give my player of the game? Put my name on it for that last performance.
We don't ask for it, but absolutely, sir.
Yes. Mr. Valdir at right tackle. Can we talk about a guy that was retired at the beginning of the season and came in and played an amazing performance, backing up Brian Bulaga? I just got to say, most people won't remember that. That's the kind of stuff I'll remember forever, that performance. So hats off to that guy.
Yeah, Brian Bulaga
Good
that was dealing with the flu, right? Or some kind of
Yeah,
illness.
yep. He checked out in pregame warmups, and they threw a guy who's been on the team for all of 3 weeks in there, and just an incredible performance.
Yeah, was able to keep Clowney in check for most of the football game there. So, all right, Joey, now it's time. Enough stalling.
All right, enough stalling. I know, I'm still in my head trying to think what I want to say here. No, game flow. I think you're going to see the Packers come out and take some shots early. I think they're going to come out because if they hit on one of those, boy, they're going to be fired up. I think they're definitely going to try to get Aaron Jones going. I don't think they're going to be dumb and pound him through the tackles. I think you're going to see they're trying to get him in the flats, matched up against the linebackers of the 49ers, who are very athletic. So we'll see how well that works. You're going to get a back-and-forth game, I think, as long as it doesn't get away. If it does, I can see San Francisco running away with it if the Packers come out flat or make some early mistakes. But if the Packers hang in there, they convert some key third downs, get a couple turnovers, and get that pressure. I can see this being a game that comes down to possibly the last possession, and the tattoo on my arm will light on fire if I say anything but a Packers win. So I'm going to say Packers win 26-25 on a Mason Crosby 35-yard field goal to stab a dagger into your heart, Jeremy.
Write that down, Casey. 35-yard field goal. If it
It's
gets
on
there.
tape. Well,
Yeah. It's
I
on
mean,
tape,
that's what the
but it's
audio
easier
is
if we
for.
just write it down. All right,
I
Joey.
mean, I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's the only thing I can say.
I guess on the flip side, if I have to talk to a Packers fan in a couple of weeks gearing up for a Super Bowl, at least I'm glad it's you.
You know, I try not to be one of those pretentious Packer fans who's
Yeah.
I've actually studied the history, and I am damn proud and damn glad I was not born in the 60s because it was a rough couple decades through the 70s and the 80s. So
Looking at you, Justin.
Oh, name dropping.
Yeah.
No, man, you've been my friend for a long time, and it's kind of fun we can share this rivalry, and maybe there's some way we can still get together for this game because that'll probably keep me from killing something.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it off air. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'll say, it's we talked about it when we talked Chiefs. I'm rooting for the Packers here because I want the full potential vengeance tour, knocking out the teams that beat us in the regular season. So, want a healthy Mahomes against Rodgers. We all want to see it. So, except for maybe Jim. Except for maybe Jim. Jim doesn't want to see it, but the rest of us do.
And what a cap to a 100-year.
Right?
NFL season.
Perfect.
Packers Chiefs.
Roll back that Super Bowl one. That's it's symmetry. It makes sense.
Fucking
So,
Vince, book this
We'll be
shit. God damn it.
we'll be talking to you before the Super Bowl if that team gets the big dub.
Yeah. I really hope to be talking to you.
All right, man. Thanks for the time tonight.
All right, get back to that 70s show. Enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Hey,
good time.
and as always, guys, go Pack, go.
No.
And there you have it.
Yeah.
We've I guess depending upon when you're listening, we've done it all. It was a lighter load this week, guys.
It was easier.
We had 4 teams to talk to.
Next time we'll
Next
only
time?
have
Oh,
2.
So make sure, like I said, if this is the first one you're listening to, go back. We talked Chiefs Titans as well. These breakdowns got a little more lengthy, but it's AFC Championship,
fewer
NFC
teams to
Cha-
talk
it's Championship
about,
weekend. We gotta let these guys sort of. We love having the fans on. There's this. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of a world where it's me and Jam next week.
Because I'm going to try and get you into some crazy bet.
No, it's fine. Behind
That's
the
gonna
curtain,
be-
it was one of those things where I laughed because we got the little group chat going on, and
Yeah.
it's if you look at Vegas, it's the odds right now. I'll believe it when it happens. I don't know if Jam's in the same boat as me or not. I'm extremely pessimistic about my team, but. I believe Ryan's response was, "That's good for the show, right?"
It's good for the show, right?
I don't know. Is it?
Right.
Is it good for the show? I
See,
don't.
and here's where it
don't know.
breaks down is KC will not want to get together and watch the game when I am fine watching with other
No,
people.
my wife is
and-
completely
and
locked
break
into
down.
understanding that not only am I watching this game in this basement that we're recording in by myself, but she's not allowed in the house either. So,
has to be just pure silence.
So yeah, but that breaks the tradition since the show. Like,
come on over after. We'll record. It's fine.
We'll
I will
record
still
after.
record a podcast after. Hey, we got to get through this weekend first.
Maybe. Yeah,
It's
we'll
very
get through this
possible that
weekend.
it's a Titans Super Bowl. It's
It'll
possible.
be Titans Packers, and you and I will both be pissed.
That's fine.
And we'll be hate watching a Super Bowl.
We'll be rooting for the
So
other teams.
close.
Yeah, right. All right, so like I said, if you guys didn't listen to the AFC side of things, go back and listen to that. We are going to go into our predictions for the weekend. Make sure you download the podcast for that. Just Another Football Show. It's available everywhere you're getting podcasts. And that's the only place to get our predictions. We're going to break down these games a little bit further. And like I said, on Wednesday we went over the current news. There's some things, some coaching hires, some retirements, some other things that we talked about. So make sure you guys are out there. You're getting that information on you too. And, we enjoy having you guys around.
I tried not to
It's
give
nice.
away too much of my feelings on this matchup talking to our guests.
We're going to talk
So,
in depth here coming up here on the podcast. Make sure you guys are out there downloading it. iTunes Store, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere. Just search it wherever you get your podcast. It will pop up, I promise. I've made sure of it. And if it doesn't, let me know, and I will figure out why. I promise you. So, until you guys download the podcast, or you go back and listen to the AFC side of things, wherever you're sitting, I'm not sure.
I'm in a chair.
For these two guys,
Yep.
right? This has been Just Another Football Show.
Bye.
See ya.